everyone. Welcome to today's Simpplr customer webinar featuring Datto. The webinar will focus on how to improve employee engagement and collaboration during remote work. My name is Hani, and I'm here with Simpplr as the Content Marketing Manager. Before I get the event started, just wanted to go over a few housekeeping items. We will hold a live Q&A at the end of the session. As the presentation moves along, please feel free to enter your questions in the Q&A box or interact with us in the chat, the Zoom webinar chat. We will be sending this webinar recording to you along with the presentation about 24 to 48 hours after the event. So again, thank you for joining us today. We have a very special guest with us, Jessica Anavim from Datto. Just a quick introduction before I pass it on to her for the presentation. Jessica is a corporate communications leader who has experience setting branding and communication strategies, collaborating across organizations to create messaging content that resonates with diverse audiences. She is passionate about applying external marketing practices to the internal digital workplace in order to better engage employees and foster strong culture. Her career has spanned the industrial, aerospace, and tech sectors. Welcome, Jessica. Thank you for joining us today. We're super excited to have you here.
Thank you, Hani, and thank you all for joining me for our session today entitled Improve Employee Engagement and Collaboration During Remote Work. In today's session, I will provide a little background about myself and Datto, and then I will highlight the challenges we faced when it came to internal communications and how we pursued a solution. Finally, I will discuss outcomes and open the floor to any questions that you may have. So let's dive right in. My name is Jessica Anavim, and I am the Digital Workplace and Intranet Manager at Datto. What does this mean? Well, it means that I set the internal communication strategy as it relates to all things digital, including our intranet platform. I'll talk a little bit about this more in detail later on, but I was brought onto the Datto team at the beginning of 2020 to create and execute a strategy around the launch and maintenance of an entirely new intranet platform built on Simpplr that would engage our workforce and cut the clutter surrounding internal communications and knowledge sharing. I also want to give you a brief overview of Datto to give you a sense of the challenges that we faced and the solutions we implemented to overcome them. Founded in 2007 in Norwalk, Connecticut, Datto has 22 offices globally and over 1,600 employees worldwide. Our business model is unique in that we sell our products, which include data backup, file sync and share, and business management tools, to over 17,000 IT managed service providers who provide solutions to over 1 million small and medium businesses around the world. So now that we've gotten introductions out of the way, let's dive into the main session and the main reason why you're all here today, to learn about how to improve employee engagement in this remote working environment that we're all navigating. At the onset, our challenge was simple, no pun intended, to replace an outdated system with a new one that better promoted employee engagement. Back in December 2018, Datto CEO Tim Weller approached several leaders within the business with a new project to find and implement a new intranet system that would become employees' one-stop shop for all things Datto. While at the time we did have an intranet solution, Datto employees found it hard to navigate and often turned to reaching out to individuals within the business when they needed answers to simple questions or access to routine documents. With that charge, a cross-departmental team was assembled and a vendor evaluation began. And this team was comprised of people from marketing, operations, sales, project management, product development, engineering, IT, and human resources to ensure that a wide array of perspectives were taken into account. During the vendor evaluation process itself, the goal was not to choose a vendor, but to understand the intranet landscape, best practices, and determine the providers that would really fit Datto's needs. So 2 months after kickoff, a survey was sent to Datto employees to understand how they used our previous intranet platform, understand their features wish list, and how they accessed resources across the business. We found that employees wanted a place to find relevant resources, but they really weren't having a great experience. Search often turned up irrelevant or outdated results. Information was hard to find via site navigation, and the majority of people didn't use the intranet to find important announcements or information, opting instead to sift through their email inboxes or Slack conversations. As you can see here on this slide, 61.8% of survey respondents indicated that their primary source of information was in their inboxes, while only 7% indicated that they actually went to the intranet for information. We also found that employees didn't like that they needed to log into VPN to access the intranet, which was another barrier to using the platform on a regular basis. So armed with this valuable feedback, the team set off to find intranet vendors that provided solutions that satisfied our employees' needs. And here, it's just really important to stress and note that the team had executive support throughout the duration of the project with a clear charge. While our CEO provided his input, our Chief People Officer, Michael, and our Chief Marketing Officer, Matt, were also heavily involved in providing sponsorship and stressing the importance of this initiative across the business. And this support was most definitely a factor in paving the way for our success and continued success after we launched the platform. From February through October 2019, the team evaluated our options, ultimately deciding to partner with Simpplr in our quest to implement a new intranet platform. We decided to work with Simpplr because of how easy it is to administer the platform and content, the robust privileges and governance capabilities, detailed analytics and tracking, no VPN requirement, and newsletter functionality. And this last piece, newsletter functionality, didn't become a key requirement in our search for a new intranet platform until way later in the evaluation process. Although we were sending the majority of our newsletters through an email platform, because we were using dynamic distribution lists that were only tied to one email address, we were unable to glean any real metrics from those communications. The newsletter functionality within Simpplr granted us the opportunity to not only give newsletter sending permissions to a small group of very specific individuals, but also allowed us to narrowly segment audiences and get powerful click-through and open rate data to determine the effectiveness of our campaigns. And so we set off to implement a brand new platform. We were excited to use this opportunity to start from a clean slate and gather powerful benchmarking data so that we could re-engage our employees and really arm them with the resources and tools that they needed. At this stage, we began to work with individuals outside of our core group, identifying content that needed to be migrated over from our previous platform. And so, Dattosphere was born. In total, 114 contributors from 19 different departments created hundreds of pages across 47 subsites to get ready for launch. And throughout this process, our core team trained contributors on content creation best practices and continued to educate site owners and managers on our new intranet strategy and goals moving forward, which were very different from our previous platform. At this point, the team recognized that in order to ensure program success post-launch, Datto needed to hire someone to oversee governance, maintenance, content creation, and internal communication strategy. And this person would be charged with ensuring that departments were able to collaborate amongst themselves and with other departments to ensure that the right messages reached the right audiences using the right tools. In January 2020, I was hired to do just that. We decided to structure Dattosphere into several areas that would aid employees in finding the resources they needed quickly. This included corporate sites, which housed places for executive announcements, cultural initiatives, recognition, and our new hire experience. For many of these corporate sites, we elected to auto-subscribe all employees so that they would be able to see the latest news when it happened. Next, we made sites for each of our 20+ international locations, auto-subscribing only those employees who worked from those respective locations. And these hubs are areas where location-specific information and announcements can be created, and also office visitors from other locations can access travel and lodging updates when we are actually working from our offices. Finally, we created department sites, which house information created by each of our departments. By structuring our intranet in this manner, we were able to attribute ownership and authorship to specific groups without the need to duplicate content. Following implementation, we have added 2 more categories: regional sites, which group together certain offices, and team sites for those department sub-teams that require additional space to house their repositories. We've also created a few private sites that allow members to collaborate privately and share information that is not meant for employees outside of their teams. So here we were. Sites and content had been built out, a governance and moderation plan was implemented, and we were ready to make our debut at our March Town Hall event. This was the moment we had all been waiting for. When it came to launching Dattosphere to our employee population, our core team really wanted to take an omni-channel approach. And this was important as we were working to actively change company culture and the way employees consumed information. Before launch, we deployed a campaign across our office locations, teasing a surprise that would be announced at our upcoming March Town Hall event. This included cryptic posters, use of in-office displays, and posting information in high-traffic Slack channels. On the morning of launch, our operations team placed Datto-branded laptop stickers at each employee's desk. And at this point, there really was no turning back. That day, we presented the new platform at our Town Hall event, which was live broadcasted to all employees globally, in addition to having a live audience at our Norwalk, Connecticut headquarters. It was here that we really explained why we were moving to a new platform and how we expected people to use it and how it would improve people's workflows. Following this announcement, our team cross-posted information and demo videos to popular Slack channels and manned a dedicated intranet questions Slack channel, which we still use today. This channel was especially important as it was and continues to be a dedicated place where people can ask questions about Dattosphere, troubleshoot issues, and ask questions about best practices. We also rolled out a scavenger hunt in which employees were asked to complete certain tasks within the intranet for a chance to win large prizes, such as wireless headphones, Bluetooth speakers, and gift cards to the Datto swag store. And this activity was an absolute hit. In order to keep the momentum going, I also worked with our learning and development team to present information to our new hires at their training program, Datto U. Since launch, the team has adopted and modified scavenger hunt that allows new hires to familiarize themselves with Dattosphere and engage with the platform from the moment that they join the team. So when we launched Dattosphere on Wednesday, March 11th, the team and I had no idea that the COVID-19 pandemic would worsen within the upcoming days. By Friday, our executive team made the decision that all employees would be working from home until further notice. This shift to working from home, which happened just 2 days after launching Dattosphere, meant that our main method of communication with employees was shifted to our new intranet platform overnight. This posed some unique challenges as we set up strategies to ensure that employees would adopt the platform quickly and use it for its intended purpose. And so the core implementation team banded together with the communications department as we built out content related to this pandemic that was becoming more confusing by the day. Housed within our human resources site, to which we subscribed all employees, we built a COVID-19 information center with links to everything from symptom reporting procedures and office opening statuses to sales and support tools. We also worked closely with HR to publish and promote training sessions related to working from home, ensuring proper workspace ergonomics, and combating stress. And these training sessions were for both managers and employees. This quick mobilization, along with continued executive support from our sponsors, was instrumental in garnering employee adoption and ensuring that they had the resources they needed during this transition period. So we're through with that. We're through launch. Fast forward to September, and we're still working from home. During this time, our executives started the IPO process. And when approached about communicating the process to employees, it was only natural that I suggest we continue to use Dattosphere as our primary communications vehicle. To start, the team worked together to create a page category under our global site, which included all employees, called IPO resources. Within this section, we also created a single page called IPO Hub, which culled all information pertaining to the IPO from across Dattosphere. This included everything from leadership announcements that were published to our Executives Corner site, to training videos that were posted on our legal site, and talking points that were curated by marketing and communications. Executives linked to the IPO Hub within every email announcement that they sent to our employees to ensure maximum visibility. In addition to creating a space for IPO communications, we were also diligent about featuring important resources in our weekly What's Happening at Datto newsletters, and prominently featuring articles within the homepage and site carousels as necessary. On listing day, we featured a live webcast from the New York Stock Exchange on Dattosphere, posted an album of photos of employees celebrating from home and executives ringing the bell from the trading floor, and published FAQs and contact information for if people had any questions. Following listing day, we quickly moved to transform our small IPO hub to an information repository that contained not only IPO resources, but also information related to Datto's new public company status. To do this, we created a news site called The Exchange and migrated all IPO hub content to this area. Within this site, we also linked to our investor relations site externally, included a stock ticker, and regularly post press releases for employee visibility. Our executives still reference the exchange as a source for individuals looking for training materials and internal information related to the stock. What's more, the month of our IPO, we saw our highest adoption, search, and engagement metrics to date. 7 months after launching this new platform, it became clear that Dattosphere had become ingrained within the communications culture at Datto. With this in mind, let's take a look at the metrics. Dattosphere has truly become the one-stop shop for all information related to Datto. On a daily basis, individuals from across the business reach out to me with new use cases for building out sites within the platform. Our project management teams use it to track deliverables that were once housed in random Google Drive folders. Our events teams use it to promote cultural events across the company, and our executives use it for announcements. Other than this anecdotal evidence, how do I know that people are actually using the platform? Well, robust analytics and custom reporting really help. On a monthly basis, I keep track of metrics and report them to executive leadership. And actually, just this week, our CEO, Tim, reached out to me for a new data set. Within 90 days of launch, 100% of our employees had visited Dattosphere at least once. And on a monthly basis, about 92% of our employees visit the site at least once. This is well above benchmarked analytics, which suggests that logins are 20 percentage points higher than companies of similar size and industry. And the platform continues to grow. Since implementation and launch in March, Dattosphere has expanded from 47 to 84 active sites that are managed by over 245 employees who have built out nearly 3,000 total content pages. On a monthly basis, that translates to over 300 new pages, nearly 34,000 content views, and nearly 5,000 searches. So what have we learned throughout this crazy year of global pandemics and IPOs? We've learned that by implementing a useful tool and correctly positioning it, we were able to change the way employees create and consume information on a daily basis. And it has become a place that people want to put their content and continue to build and improve. When looking at the top pieces of content within Dattosphere, they can be broken down into resources that help our employees do their jobs efficiently, executive communications, and cultural resources and events. We're finding that employees are visiting the platform to access the sales, support, and customer relations documentation that really allows them to do their jobs more effectively without needing to sift through emails or ask multiple people before finding the right piece of collateral. They're also accessing important resources, such as materials related to professional development, employee benefits, and performance appraisals. Next, employees are heavily engaged with our executives' content, which goes beyond just standard announcements. Employees are interacting with recordings of town hall events, watching video messages, and reading our leadership's answers to their anonymously submitted questions. I've actually found on multiple occasions that employees have reached out to me with questions about adding content before I've even had a chance to update the platform on my own. Finally, we're finding that our employees are embracing our cultural events and resources, even amidst a work from home setting. They're responding to virtual events like cooking classes, concerts, and talent shows, and watching recordings if they haven't had a chance to participate in real time. They're also actively engaging with our employee resource groups, which have seen a resurgence of participation this year amidst continued conversations about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Last but not least, I want to highlight how Dattosphere has changed the culture of communication and engagement at Datto. At the beginning of this session, I mentioned that before implementing our new intranet, 62% of employees indicated that their primary source of news and information was their email inbox or weekly newsletter communications. While we've bolstered our ability to communicate within the inbox through Simpplr's newsletter functionality, we've also found that 92% of employees are logging into the intranet on a monthly basis. What's more, as I continue to manage the intranet, I frequently meet with individuals across departments looking for a place to house their content or novel ways to promote it. As a dedicated resource, I can assist in building strategies for better engagement within teams and ensure that messaging reaches its intended audience. Recently, I actually had a project manager reach out to me with a unique use case. And in conversation, he mentioned to me that when we launched, he was skeptical that this new platform would really change the way employees worked. He thought that they would continue to do things as they had, and that this new intranet platform would most likely go the way of our previous one. But over these past few months, he told me that he's personally seen how much Dattosphere has improved the way employees engage with resources and seek information. And now he recognizes it as a place that information needs to live in order to reach its target audience. And if that isn't a great endorsement for all of our hard work and dedication, I don't know what is. So with that, I'd like to begin our Q&A portion of the session today. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Jessica, for your wonderful presentation and really going through and sharing your customer journey story with us. It was really insightful to hear how you aligned company communication to engage employees during an IPO, especially while working remotely during this time, and then how you utilize the digital workplace to keep the global remote workforce connected. So we do have a couple of questions that have come in. Please utilize the Q&A feature and I'll make sure that we get your questions answered. One of the questions that came in was, what content has been most beneficial or successful on DataSphere?
I'd say that the content that has been probably the most successful, especially during the work from home period, is actually that content that deals with our culture and really connecting with employees. We actually started writing a blog series for Datto Connections, which is our internal professional networking and mentoring program. And we're finding that when we publish those blog posts monthly, people are engaging with them. And those are actually becoming the top content that people are engaging after they're posted. So people just want to feel that sense of connectedness, and DattoSphere has really allowed for that.
Someone else was asking, congratulations on your success. A question about the live webcast. Did you actually host it on Simpplr or advertise it through Simpplr with a link to the live broadcast?
So what we did was it was actually hosted through the New York Stock Exchange. So we promoted it through Simpplr with the link. In that case, we actually couldn't embed it into Simpplr just the way it was configured. So we linked out to it. But with other live webcasts that we've done internally, we've actually just embedded it within Simpplr and had people watch from there.
Great. Someone else asked, I work in communications. What office do you think the intranet belongs to? Is it IT, communications, or HR?
So I actually work in communications too. We're under marketing at Datto, and I think it makes the most sense for it to sit under communications, but that person within communications really has to realize that they're kind of the conduit to other departments, right? So while they own the intranet, they're really collaborating with IT, they're collaborating with HR, they're collaborating with all of these departments to make sure that everything that employees need is on there, on the system.
What drives employees to your site on an ongoing basis?
So we drive people in a number of ways. Simpplr actually has a great integration with Slack, where you can promote content directly from Simpplr to a specified Slack channel. So we use that quite a bit if we want people to engage with certain pieces of content, and we're really able to tailor pages to specific Slack groups where it's actually relevant and necessary. We also have weekly newsletters that go out. We have one newsletter that goes out to all employees every week, and that includes, we call it What's Happening at Datto, and that includes really information that applies to all employees or things that all employees should know. And then our other departments also do their own weekly or quarterly or whatever it is, newsletters from Simpplr as well, where they're able to drive traffic to news that's going on.
Have you eliminated all employee emails altogether? If not, what percentage of decrease have you seen as a result of the new intranet?
Oh, that's a tough one. I actually don't know about the percentage decrease, but I would say we've just consolidated more of the newsletters. Whereas people were kind of sending things willy-nilly through Gmail, and people had access to all sorts of lists in the past. Now, if they want to send a newsletter, it has to go through DattoSphere. That way we can track what's going on, how people are engaging with it. If they're not engaging with it, what can we do to change things? So really, it's not about necessarily reducing the amount of emails that are going out, but controlling the messaging and having a strategy behind effectively communicating.
Someone also asked this question saying, regarding D&I, do you recommend making a specific site within the intranet, and how did you really get employees involved with that?
Yeah, so our D&I initiatives are really closely tied with HR. And we actually have a group that's called Inclusion at Datto, and we have several ERGs across the organization that represent employees of all types. And when we were initially kind of rolling out the ERGs within Dattosphere, we created a site called the Datto Cultural Center. And this is a place that houses all of Datto cultural initiatives. And our ERGs kind of lived within Dattosphere, within the cultural center, as their own page categories. And we're finding that as they grow, as they have more information, we're able to break them out of the cultural center and create dedicated sites for them. So once they kind of reach this threshold that we've set, they're able to break apart and really capture that audience of people that they've recruited to participate.
I think D&I was a huge conversation that was had this year, so I'm glad that you guys made space for it on your intranet.
Yeah.
Someone was asking, even though your leadership already had buy-in for a new intranet, do you have any suggestions for people struggling to get leadership to understand the importance of a robust company intranet?
I think the biggest thing is coming to them with the data and showing them how much this can improve efficiency, engagement, collaboration compared to what you're doing right now. So actually at my previous company, I also went through a similar exercise. And what I found was that the leadership really wants to know the metrics. They want to know, how is this going to make us more efficient and effective and promote our culture? So before going to them and just telling them, I think we need a new intranet because ours kind of stinks, actually go to them with data and say, 7% of employees are going to the intranet to find resources, and 62% of them are going to email or other people to find what they need. And then maybe do a little bit of a calculation on how much time it takes to go to someone else instead of just going to this one singular hub.
Yeah, and we have a lot of these content already available on Simpplr. We've done a lot of research behind it and trying to find how to get leadership involvement and engagement, and actually how to pitch this to leadership to show the importance and what the ROI looks like. So if you're interested in that, feel free to look out for Simpplr research content available on simpplr.com. Someone was asking, how do you leverage the Dattosphere homepage and keep content dynamic and fresh?
Yeah, so I actually set reminders for myself on a daily basis on how to refresh the homepage of Dattosphere. That way it doesn't get stale. So every day there's something new that's going on. And I do this a lot with the carousel that we have that really highlights upcoming and new content. I make sure that our actually on the external side, our demand gen team is awesome about publishing really cool blog posts externally. And so I always feature those latest blog posts in the carousel so that employees see what we're sending to our customers, what we're posting externally. If we have any press releases or upcoming events, cultural events, ERG announcements or events, those go up in the carousel. Anything from our executives goes up in the carousel. So we have a lot of content to pull from, even if we're not actively working to create quote unquote intranet content. I also like to pull from just pages that I see that go up on the intranet. So if I see that our internal operations team has published something within their site about video production during quarantine, for instance, I might say, hey, that sounds really interesting, and I think other people might want to see it, and just throw it up in the carousel. And then also utilizing the feed to make certain announcements to different site memberships, using tiles. We also use some really cool tiles on the homepage dashboard that call out new hires, birthdays, anniversary celebrations. That way it's always dynamic and it changes with minimal effort.
I think along the same line, someone was asking, how many items do you keep on the carousel at a time?
Usually maybe about 6 or 7, not too many more than that, just because people aren't going to continue to click and click and click and try and find what they're looking for. And then we usually keep things up for maybe a week or so. So, constantly adding new things and taking other things out of the rotation.
Makes sense. How has DataSphere worked across the globe? Is it inclusive of all regions?
Yeah, it's very inclusive of all regions. And actually, that's one of the reasons why we decided to create those regional sites. So with our sales organization is kind of split up into North America, EMEA, and Asia Pacific. And what we really did there was we created these regional sites where these multiple locations could interact with each other and learn about the business. And then they could also interact on a global level and collaborate within their departments. So we're finding that like our EMEA and Asia Pacific sites, they have dedicated newsletters that they send out. Their leadership is actively engaging with employees and putting out announcements. They have specific cultural events that are just for them and their time zones. And then we're also working to make sure that our events are inclusive. So we realized this year that, especially in working from home, that time zones are a huge issue when scheduling meetings or events. So we've started scheduling maybe multiple sessions of an event, multiple sessions of a meeting, or figuring out the timing of a meeting, and then posting that as an event page within Dattosphere as well, so it has extra visibility.
And Simpplr is also available in other languages. So if you're kind of looking to reach out to a different audience and want to have a secondary language, we have those capabilities and we're continuously adding in more languages as well.
Yeah, we haven't really had to use the other languages just because everybody at Datto does speak English, but yeah, that is a great option.
Someone was asking, how big is your internal communications team? How many people do you have creating content on the main page?
So our total comms team is 3 of us. We have our director of comms, we have someone in external comms, and then me, an internal. So I'm really the bulk of the team creating the content and changing things around. It's kind of my full-time job, so that's what I do.
And along those same lines, someone was asking, do you find you always have to have fresh content, or do you have challenges including with resources to keep up management of the content?
I never have problems, honestly, with like keeping up content fresh. We have those 245 plus site owners and managers, and I actively engage with them either via newsletters just for them or reaching out, one-on-one or having meetings to make sure that they have a strategy, they have goals for their own content. So I really leverage that group of individuals to make sure that content is being created across the platform. I am not the only person creating content, nor would I really want to create content for our engineering teams or our product teams because I am definitely not a technical expert. So really it's all about building a strong network within your own company and leveraging those subject matter experts to create content within the organization.
Exactly. And Simpplr kind of makes it easy. We have a lot of point and click administration, so it's not difficult for people to create content on the platform itself.
Yeah, that's correct. We have people who have, the one thing that they've done as far as like editing something is a Word document or a PowerPoint presentation. They don't know how to code. They've never, edited a website before, and it's just so easy for them to navigate.
Along the similar lines, but people were asking, how do you measure success on your intranet? You mentioned the login rates, but are there other things that you also look at?
Yeah, so I actually create a pretty robust report monthly for our leadership teams. And those include a lot of the metrics that I actually mentioned on that one slide. So search metrics, top pages that people are engaging with, top search terms, adoption and logins, how many people are logging in, content views, all sorts of that really like what are people doing once they get there type of information. And then also Simpplr just rolled out in their last release, actually, a really cool tool for benchmarking a lot of that data that I mentioned against other companies of similar size and industry. So we're able to see how we're doing compared to others. And we're able to say, okay, like we're doing pretty good, or, oh, that should really improve, which is really helpful.
Yeah, and we have time for a few more questions. So if you guys have questions, please feel free to either send it through the chat or the Q&A. And someone asked, did you have a need to add links to launch internal applications that needed VPN access?
Can you repeat that question? Sorry.
Did you have a need to add links to launch internal applications that needed VPN access?
So we do actually have an integration between the Simpplr application and Okta, which is what we use to kind of launch all of our systems here at Datto. It's kind of one, one authentication, and we just go through and authenticate that way. So the really great thing about that Okta integration is that there's an app launch pad within the Simpplr menu that people can go to launch their apps. So those apps are inclusive of whether they need VPN access or not. And employees who are using those platforms generally know, like, okay, this is an internal system with like technical documentation that needs a VPN access. So it hasn't really been an issue for other systems. But if they want to launch like their email or something, they don't really need VPN access and can just do it straight from Simpplr.
Yeah, the Launchpad feature is great, and you're able to add in many different integrations or apps that the organization uses, and they can go to Datasphere and then launch it straight to whatever else they're looking for. So I think one of the last questions we have is, what were the expectations when introducing an intranet at Datto?
So I think our expectations were really actually very simple, just to make it better than what it was at the time. So our previous intranet, it was clear from the survey data and even before we did the survey that it just wasn't working, that people were going to the wrong places to find information. There was duplicate content. Nobody knew who really owned things. So it was really all about just centralizing the information repository and making a place that people know to go to get the information, and then building upon that. So once we actually launched, it was, okay, we have this centralized repository and we've met that goal. Let's benchmark it against the old intranet to see how we're doing. And then once we realized that we were doing way better than the old intranet, we challenged ourselves and said, okay, let's take a look at month over month metrics, and let's see how we can improve, and let's see how we're benchmarked against other companies. So it's kind of been an evolving strategy and an evolving goal setting process. But that's kind of how it started. Just really simple. Let's improve what we already have.
And that's a great way to start as well. I think the last question that we have for today, and it's a very simple question. How are employees getting into Datasphere? Just username and password?
So they can launch Datasphere through Okta. As long as they're authenticated, they just go straight in. It's super easy. And also we've created a custom link within Datto that we sometimes do that people can just type it in. And as long as they're authenticated, they'll go straight to Datasphere.
And we make it very easy. We also have Google single sign-on authentication. We use Okta as well. So there are many different ways to log onto the platform. And so with that, thank you again, Jessica, for joining us and answering all of these questions. And for the attendees, just as a reminder, the recording and presentation will be sent within the next couple of days. Thanks for joining, everyone.
Thank you.